Hello and welcome to this video tutorial walkthrough of the Raspberry Shake data web portal. Now here we are looking at the Stationview web page. These web apps are an easy, accessible way to access live and historical seismic data from the Raspberry Shake network. All of these hexagons that you see here on this map are seismic stations, Raspberry Shake seismographs that are connected to the network and sharing data. The circles that we see are earthquakes, and the differences in color, you may notice that these hexagons change color. That is the current ground motion that sensor is experiencing. If it's blue or green or yellow, it may be lower, but if it's orange or red, that means that sensor is noisy at the moment. That could mean that there's some shaking going on in that region. It also more probably means that the sensor is in a noisy environment. In terms of the circles, they demonstrate earthquakes, and the size is magnitude, and the color is the earthquake depth. Quickly, I will show you how to find a sensor here, and really the easiest way is to zoom in to the area where you want to explore. I've zoomed in here in Prince William Sound and see that there's a Raspberry Shake 1D sensor in Whittier that is sharing data. The 1D versus 4D versus SB versus 3D denote different models and data components from the stations, but the 1D is the single vertical axis sensor. So if we click on that station, we'll see the station name, R7FE3. We'll say what model it is. It's a 1D, where that model is. And then these two graphs show us the live data for the last 10 minutes, both the waveform data and then the spectrogram data, so the frequency of the shaking. It shows us live ground motion as well. What I would like to demonstrate for you all is how to go and explore the data from this station, and that is by clicking on this last 24-hour plot that will bring us to the Dataview webpage. And here we are. This is the Dataview webpage, and when we click on it immediately, we notice there's, the lines are pretty flat. Well, that is because there is no amplification on the shaking. We can increase the amplification with these kind of toggles up here in order to see the waveforms better. And immediately we notice that there are a few events or activity that show up, and this right here looks to me a lot like an earthquake. So I'm going to click on it. You can click on any area and it will blow up that section of the graph, and look at that beautiful earthquake that happened right here. It's UTC time, but if I click, it transfers to Alaska Daylight Time. Looks like it happened at 4:08 p.m. Yesterday. So that would have been October the 3rd at 4:08 p.m. There was a small earthquake somewhere in the Prince William Sound region that this seismograph detected. And you can see the P wave and then the S wave, and it shows the velocity of the shaking in meters per second. Up here, these toggles are to see different views of the data. My favorite is the spectrogram view that shows the frequency, and then the color is intensity of the shaking. It shows a really strong P and S wave and kind of how that low frequency rolls on. You can also see the spectra view, shows the amplitude there, and you can also zoom in and out. If there was a large earthquake, sometimes that waveform can span over many minutes. You can also change the filter. So perhaps if we look at a local filter, it might look different. Now, the last thing I'll mention in this video here is how to go back and look at historical data. And with this little calendar icon, we can either go back single days by just clicking the back button, or we can go back to a specific date we'd like to see. So if I want to go back to September 13th, I can do that. And if that station was online and recording data that day, which it looks like it was, it'll show up. Notice that during the day, this is installed at a school. So during the day, there's lots of noise. During the night hours, there's less. The last component I'll share is the live view. Now this is especially valuable if you want to have a live display of a station in your building or that you have at your school. This live view just shows near real time. Now you can test how near real time this is by stomping or making some ground motion, shaking, and then while this is streaming and watching it, it's usually a little less than a second of lag depending on how fast your internet is. You can also have multiple data views and bring in other fields as well if your sensor has multiple components. And that's it for the Dataview walkthrough, the Stationview and Dataview walkthrough. There are more settings to explore. You can not show stations and only look at the earthquakes. You can only show stations and not see earthquakes. But one last cool little tool here, if I show events and stations, is if I've clicked on this Whittier station and then I click on a small earthquake that's happened in the area, it may show me the waveform on that sensor. See how that works? Now, it looks like there has been these earthquakes were not really felt by the sensor, which is okay, but that's a fun tool to use, especially if there are earthquakes that may have been felt by that station, or you felt. You can use that to see. All right, thank you, and happy shaking.